The last painting. The auction house buzzed with the energy of wealthy collectors, their hushed conversations mixing with the gentle clink of champagne glasses. Marcus Whitmore adjusted his Italian silk tie, his eyes scanning the room with the practiced indifference of a man who could buy anything he desired. At 45, he had built an empire from nothing, accumulating wealth that most could only dream of. Yet tonight, something felt different. Tonight, he wasn't here for another trophy piece to add to his collection. A young man, no more than 16, stood nervously by the side entrance clutching a canvas wrapped in an old bedsheet. His clothes were worn but clean, his shoes held together with duct tape, and his eyes held a desperate hope that made Marcus pause mid-sip of his Dom Perignon. If this story touches your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more inspiring stories that remind us what truly matters in life. The boy approached the registration desk with trembling hands. "Excuse me," his voice barely above a whisper, "I'd like to submit this painting for tonight's auction." The registration clerk, a stern woman in her 50s, looked him up and down with obvious disdain. "Young man, this is a high-end auction house. We deal in authenticated pieces from established artists." "I'm afraid." "Please," the boy interrupted, his voice cracking. "It was my mother's last painting. She passed away 3 months ago, and I need the money for my little sister. We're about to lose our apartment." Marcus found himself moving closer, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. The boy's hands shook as he unwrapped the canvas, revealing a painting that made the entire room seem to hold its breath. It was a portrait of 2 children, a boy and a girl, sitting by a window as golden sunlight streamed through weathered curtains. The technique was extraordinary, each brushstroke seemed to capture not just light and shadow, but emotion itself. The love in the artist's hand was evident in every detail, from the gentle curve of the children's faces to the way the light seemed to dance across their skin. But it wasn't the technical skill that made Marcus's champagne glass slip from his nerveless fingers, shattering on the marble floor. It was the signature in the bottom right corner, written in elegant script that he hadn't seen in 27 years, Elena Vasquez. The name hit him like a physical blow. Elena. His Elena. The woman he had loved with every fiber of his being, the woman he had lost to his own ambition and pride. "Where did you get this?" Marcus's voice was barely audible, but something in his tone made the entire room turn to look at him. The boy looked up, startled. It's my mother's work. She painted it just before she died. My name is Diego Vasquez, and this is my sister Maria." He gestured to a small girl hiding behind him, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. Marcus felt his world tilt on its axis. Vasquez. The name that should have been his children's name, if he hadn't been so blind, so consumed with building his empire that he'd lost sight of what truly mattered. 27 years ago, Elena had stood in their small apartment, tears streaming down her face as she begged him to choose love over money. "I'm pregnant, Marcus," she had whispered. "We could have a beautiful life together. We don't need millions. We need each other." But Marcus had been young and hungry, convinced that love couldn't pay bills or secure futures. He had chosen the business deal that would make him wealthy, the opportunity that required him to leave Elena behind. "I'm doing this for us," he had said, already reaching for his suitcase. "I'll come back when I'm successful enough to give you everything you deserve." "I don't want everything," Elena had cried. "I just want you." But Marcus had left anyway, chasing wealth across the country, telling himself that he would return once he had made his fortune. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and months to years. Each time he thought of calling Elena, he convinced himself he needed to achieve just a little bit more first. He wanted to return as a conqueror, not a man still struggling to find his place in the world. By the time he finally worked up the courage to go back, Elena was gone. The apartment was empty, the neighbors had no forwarding address, and it was as if she had vanished from the earth. Marcus had tried to find her, hiring private investigators and searching every database he could access. But Elena Vasquez had simply disappeared, taking with her the only thing that had ever truly mattered to him. Now, looking at this boy, this young man who had Elena's eyes and her determined chin, Marcus realized the devastating truth. Elena hadn't just disappeared. She had been raising their children alone while he built his empire of glass and steel. "Your mother," Marcus managed, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Elena Vasquez. She was an artist?" Diego nodded, his eyes bright with pride despite their current circumstances. "The most beautiful artist in the world. She painted every day, even when she was sick. Even when the treatments made her so weak she could barely hold a brush. She said art was how she kept hope alive." Marcus closed his eyes, remembering Elena's hands, always stained with paint, always creating something beautiful. "What happened to her?" "Cancer," Diego said simply. "We couldn't afford the treatments she needed. She fought for 3 years, working as a house cleaner during the day and painting at night. She never stopped believing that someday, someone would recognize her talent." The room had gone completely silent. Marcus could feel the weight of every gaze, but all he could see was this boy, his son, standing proud despite his circumstances, trying to sell his mother's final masterpiece to keep his family together. "She used to tell us stories," Diego continued, his voice growing stronger. "About a man she loved once, who was going to change the world. She said he had kind eyes and big dreams, but that sometimes dreams can make people forget what they already have." Marcus felt tears he hadn't shed in decades burning behind his eyes. Elena had remembered him kindly, even after he had abandoned her. Even after he had chosen money over love, success over family. She never stopped loving him, Diego added quietly. Even at the end, she would look at this painting and smile. She said it reminded her that love never really dies, it just waits for the right moment to bloom again. Marcus stepped forward, his legs unsteady. "Diego," he said, his voice breaking. "I need to tell you something. My name is Marcus Whitmore, and 27 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I left your mother because I thought I needed to become wealthy to be worthy of her love. I thought I was protecting our future, but instead, I destroyed it." Diego stared at him, confusion and recognition warring in his eyes. You're the man from the stories." "I'm your father," Marcus whispered, the words falling into the silence like stones into still water. The auction house erupted in whispers, but Marcus only had eyes for his children. Diego stood frozen, clutching the painting that had brought them together, while little Maria peeked out from behind him with wide, curious eyes. "I've spent 27 years building an empire," Marcus continued, stepping closer. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and I would trade every penny of it for one more day with your mother. For the chance to tell her I was sorry. For the opportunity to watch you both grow up." Diego's eyes filled with tears. "She never stopped hoping you would come back. Even when things got really bad, she said love always finds a way." Marcus reached out tentatively, and after a moment's hesitation, Diego stepped into his embrace. They stood there, father and son, holding each other while Elena's final painting watched over them like a benediction. "You're not going to lose your apartment," Marcus said fiercely. "You're not going to worry about money ever again. But more than that, if you'll let me, I want to be the father I should have been from the beginning." Little Maria stepped forward then, tugging on Marcus's expensive suit with paint-stained fingers. "Are you really our daddy?" she asked in a small, hopeful voice. Marcus knelt down to her level, seeing Elena's features reflected in her innocent face. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm your daddy, and I'm so sorry it took me so long to find you." The painting would never be sold. Instead, it would hang in the place of honor in Marcus's home, a constant reminder of the woman who had loved him unconditionally and the children who had given him a second chance at the only wealth that truly mattered. In the weeks that followed, Marcus liquidated much of his business empire, keeping only what was necessary to support his family comfortably. He enrolled Diego in the best art school in the country, recognizing Elena's talent living on in their son's gifted hands. He spent his days learning to be a father, taking Maria to the park, helping with homework, and listening to stories about the mother he had lost but whose love had never left them. Diego and Maria moved into Marcus's mansion, but more importantly, Marcus moved into their hearts. They created new traditions, new memories, and slowly began to heal the wounds that years of separation had created. Elena's paintings, which had been stored in their small apartment, were given a gallery showing that Marcus sponsored. The art world was stunned by the raw talent that had been hidden away, and Elena Vasquez was posthumously recognized as one of the most gifted artists of her generation. The proceeds from the sales went to a foundation Marcus established to help struggling artists and single parents access healthcare and education. Every night, Marcus would stand before Elena's final painting, telling her about their children's day, sharing their triumphs and challenges, and promising to be the man she had always believed he could be. "Love never dies," he would whisper to the canvas, where two children sat bathed in golden light, waiting for someone to come home. "It just waits for the right moment to bloom again." This story reminds us that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the love we give and receive. If this touched your heart, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs to hear this message, leaving a comment about what family means to you, and subscribing to Trillionaire in Love for more stories that celebrate the power of love over everything else. Remember, it's never too late to choose love over everything else that seems important but ultimately isn't. ****.